Where does that transition occur from musician to engineer, or I'm assuming, I'm pretty sure you walk the line pretty tight between both, because I've seen.
I
Looking
did.
at
I
you,
was always interested in the process of it. Like I said,
yeah,
I loved the process of it, so I'd try to take in anything that I could along the way. But I'll tell you what the transition was. I started working with a guy named Tommy Sims, one of the most talented people that I've ever met in my entire life.
jeez,
Um, so we met one day at a studio, and he said, "Hey, man, come in tomorrow. I want to talk to you about some things I've got going on." And I knew who Tommy was. I mean, Tommy was already legendary.
yeah, legend,
Right?
yeah,
So he came and talked to me about what all he was doing, and he said, "Hey, I want you to be a part of all of these projects with me." And so now I'm probably a couple of years into being in Nashville, and I mean, really just starting to get my feet wet on some of these things. And so I actually told him, let me think about it, let me pray about it. I was like, I'm so flattered, like I want to. And it was, I remember it was over the course of a long week, there's a holiday, I think, on Monday or Friday or something. And I said, let me let you know, as soon as everything starts happening again, Tuesday morning, I'll call you, I'll let you know. And he called me every day that weekend, and it's a little, he's like, have you made up your mind yet? Because we have this. And I was like, I haven't yet. I'm still, which is, if you know Tommy at all, if you've ever met him, he's a man of few words. He's not one of those like pick up the phone and call a whole lot. So the whole weekend I thought about it, and like, man, I just feel like I think I'm just going to tell him no. Wow. And my thinking was this, I've been here a couple of years and I want to work with you, but at the same time, I feel like I've spent all this time building up clients and people that are trusting what I do. And if he has as much stuff as he's talking about, as much as I would love it, I'm going to be disappearing from some of these things, and I feel like I'm all of a sudden just walking away from the things that I had been building up. That was my thinking over it. So over the weekend, I rehearsed exactly what I was going to tell him, to like, I want to leave the door, I would love to work on something, but I don't want to, I just don't think it's the time yet. I don't know what I came up with. Tuesday morning came. I was barely awake, and the phone rang. It was Tommy. He said, "Hey, here's the thing. I'm going to be working on a project at the Castle studio." That's where it was. I'm going to be working on a project at the Castle tracking, but I'm going to rent out the other room, bring all your stuff, and you can go ahead and get started on this other, he was like, and I was like looking for a break in the conversation to, start my whole thing that I'd rehearsed.
Right.
But I, like, Tom. And he kept, "No, but bring all your stuff. Can you be there in about an hour? We're going to get set up, and you've got through. We'll be there for the whole week, and I'll show you this track." And there was just like no break to get into my lines, and so finally he, all of us, he was done talking to me about everything, and I was like ready to go. And I just remember like thinking, it happened suddenly, and I was about to go into it, and I honestly felt God saying, "Stop trying to hold on to something you think you've created.
Wow.
And trust me."
Wow.
So all I said was, "Sounds great. I'll see you in about an hour." And so from that day forward, Tommy and I worked on every project together for about the next 8 years. And that was a lot of the transition. We, at first we were like creating tracks and all this stuff, but as we moved on, and like I said, we were printing things to actual analog tape at the time.
Yeah.
So, we'd create these tracks, and at the time it was called printing. Let's go print this onto tape. So I remember he just never liked the feel of it after it went to tape. He's like, man, you got to figure this out. What's happening? Why doesn't it feel the same now that it's on tape? And like, what happened to the feel? What happened to the sound? Yeah. He's like, man, you figure out how to start doing this. And so, again, there was, if there was internet, it was very, there was like 2 websites or something. It was way so far back that there was not looking it up on YouTube. It was like, man, I was just going and getting the manuals. I was calling engineer friends of mine going, what does this stuff do? Like, because I got to figure this out. I had a good friend that managed a studio, and he would let me stay there. And like literally, we would finish work and I would stay there overnight. I would not sleep. I would look up that manuals if they could find them. Yeah. If not, I would run stuff. I'd go up to a console and run stuff through it. I would learn how to patch into a compressor. I didn't even know what a compressor was. I would patch into a compressor and like one knob at a time go, all right, what does this do? And I would just listen. I'm like, oh, okay, that's what it's doing, Wow. And then I'd look and see what the name of that knob was. Okay, so that's what that does, it was literally finding out what it did by ear.
Wow.
And that's how I learned engineering. And it's something that was really difficult, but later I would be really, really thankful for
those moments. Yeah.
And I'll tell you why, because so many times people think of engineering as a very technical part of this, but it's not. It is a very musical part of it. If you use your ears. It's not about what frequency is there, like that's fighting that you have to carve out, or what a compression ratio is. It's like, how does this sound? How do we create this sound to fit into the track, to fit the rest of it, to make it say what this lyric is saying?
Wow.
It's a creative, it's a musical process, and it's not technical. I mean, there's some technical stuff behind it.
Yeah.
But you approach it from a musical thing. And so even now when I'm dialing in, I cutting vocals just before you walked in, and and getting a sound, and I'll reach over and start grabbing the EQ. I won't even look at what the knobs are.
Wow.
I don't even care,
because
as like sometimes you would like psych yourself out to like suddenly look at an EQ and it's like, that's the weirdest thing. Like nobody would ever EQ.
Right.
It doesn't matter what it looks like.
It's what does it sound like?
It's what it sounds like.
I love that.
So
I preach that all the time, man, to our things, to our community, telling people all the time, like, look, don't get in your head about what this is.
Right.
Learn the tools, like you said. Sit down and figure out what does that knob do, so when you reach for it, you know what you're turning, you know what you're doing, but, don't get so married to, like you said, these frequency ranges and this, and what's 2K and what's 3K. Know what 3K is, know what 2K is, know what 300 or what a low cut or a high cut is, or and what these things do.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's all about what does it sound like? Because I pulled up a mix a few weeks ago, and I was doing a demo. I was online. I was showing the mix or whatever.
Yeah.
And I had not opened up this mix for like a year. I did it like last year, and then I'm pulling it back up to show the community what I'm doing. And so I'm going through the channels on the drums, and I'm like, well, there's nothing on this channel. It just sounded, and I said it sounded good. There was nothing on the kick, like nothing, no plugins, maybe like VMR or something like that.
Yeah.
That was it. There was nothing else on it. But the kick just sounded good like it was, and it just worked in the mix. So when I heard it, I was like, what am I touching it for?
Sure.
It sounds good like that. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And you move on to something
That's
else.
The goal. Capture it well.
Yeah,
and
it was captured well. It sounded good. So okay, moving into that. So Tommy Sims, you thought about telling Tommy Sims no, and God told you to tell him yes.
It wasn't like a hard no, but it was just like, hey, just trust
me. Like a maybe.
Yeah.
You was trying to give Tommy a maybe. So you can keep your things going on there. So you moved into that. You spent all of these years.
I got a good story with that.
Okay,
Can I share that?
Go ahead.
Okay, so
Just following the
This
timeline.
another cool story. No, this is, if it's horrible, cut all this out.
No.
I like this is a pretty cool story though.
No, I wanna
so that same day, I went over to the castle, brought all my stuff with me, and I was in the B room, and Tommy was tracking in the A room. He gave me this track, and it's not just a cool story. It's like the basis of like where I started really listening to music and sounds and making it make sense.
Yeah.
So he gave me this track. He like, hey, here's the track that we need.
Mm.
And I listened to it and I thought, man, this is the like the simplest, like the most ridiculous little track I've ever heard. I was like, he's like, all right, so I'll check back in, later in the day, and we're here. We've got the studio all week. And I honestly thought, man, I'll have this track done by lunch. So I did. I thought it was pretty cool, something, and so he walks in, around lunchtime, and I'm like, yeah, let me play this for you. Yeah. And he's like, no, this is, man, it's gotta like make me feel lonely.
Wow.
Like I need to feel longing, it's, and I'm like, this is the first time somebody I ever heard like talking about music with that much emotion.
Yeah.
Like it needs to, like feel, like make me feel this and I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
And so I went back to the drawing board on it, and we kept, we did this on and off, a couple of days later, it's like, it is, but I don't feel desperate. This situation needs to feel desperate. I was like, man, we're talking in emotions. It's not like, give me another keyboard patch. It's like, we're talking about feelings, So we actually spent the entire week there, getting this little track together, which is, it ended up being a little more than that, but it sounds just like it's a tiny, really simple drum beat.
Yeah.
A couple of stacked Juno 106s playing a little pad, and a few other little elements that was on the song. And then finally he's like, well, Tommy's like, let me put a vocal on it. And this is like the last day. I'm like, finally I get to hear like where we're going with this. And so he's like, just hand me we had a little, like an SM57 or something, wired into his handheld. He's like, no, just give me that. He was standing in the hallway, there's a hallway outside of Studio B. And he was just standing in the hallway, leaning against the wall, and the track started, and he like kind of was halfway leaning back, and he sang these little la 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 things, and it ended. He was like, all right, I'm done. I'm like, I still don't know. Like, wow, this was just some la la la's on this track. It felt great, sounded like, and so we were done. And so he was like, all right, we gotta go cut a vocal on this thing.
Yeah.
And so finally, I was like, what is this? What is this track? So the track was actually the title cut for the movie Philadelphia.
Whoa.
And it's called Streets of Philadelphia. You can go and listen to it now, and you'll hear, a simple drum beat, couple of Juno 106 things, and Bruce Springsteen's vocal and Tommy Sims singing some la la la's.
Wow.
That it seems like the simplest thing, but not just how cool of a story it is, what the song ended up being, but for me, like all of a sudden, I'm thinking of music in terms of, what this song is saying. It's how it feels like when I'm hearing this. Like, do I feel what this song is about?
That's good.
And so, that's the first thing that Tommy and I ever got to work on with Tommy. So
wow,
was that. And like I said, from just about every day for the next 8 years, we worked side by side.
Mixing is a very, very hard art to master. I know because I've been trying to master this art for several years. That is one of the reasons why I do Mix Mondays. It's a learning environment, and every mix that I do, I learn something new. And I've taken everything that I've learned over the years and we have poured it into our mixing templates. Mixing templates are a great starting place, and we have created several templates that allow you to get up and going quickly, and we have created them for Logic Pro Pro X. We have created them for Pro Tools, for Studio One, for Ableton Live, and so many others. So if you're interested in taking your mixing to the next level, or even just getting started, make sure you check out these links down below in the description of this video and grab your template today. All right, back to the show. Yo, thank you for watching that exclusive clip from the Hangout podcast. We drop these on the channel on Wednesdays, and we appreciate you guys for taking out the time and watching this. If you're interested in seeing more of these exclusive interviews that we have, make sure you check out the playlist over here. If you're interested in taking your production, mixing, or whatever to the next level, make sure you hit the links down below in the description. All right, we'll talk to you guys on the next one. I'm out. Holla at your boy.